Spatterjay is too vicious, too implausible. Why does everything there want to eat everything else? When I first read this criticism, shortly after The Skinner was published, I was puzzled. Hadn't those expressing this opinion watched any wildlife documentaries? Had they not seen hyenas eating the soft parts of a wildebeest while its legs were still kicking? Seen tuna and dolphins tearing into a bait ball of mackerel? Or a praying mantis female ripping the head off of its mate? Or that classic clip, shocking to armchair naturalists, of chimpanzees hunting down, tearing apart and eating a colobus monkey? Are some so disconnected from the realities of nature that such things come as a surprise? Of course, no food chain can do without its flora and those that feed upon it. And you will find these creatures on Spatterjay. But never forget that this is fiction, and herbivores feeding on the bark of pear trunk trees are a lot less interesting than, for example, a 10-ton whelk trying its hardest to eat one of the protagonists. It's always been my contention that if you want to find a plausible alien, go turn over the nearest rock and see what wriggles out. Then extrapolate. But to that I must add that you need to have some idea of what that squirmy thing, what put that squirmy thing there in the first place. Create an alien and you must have some conception of the ecology it arose from. It's no good imagining some flesh-eating monster on a barren planet with nothing for it to eat but the human explorers who have just arrived. The main creature concerned on Spatterjay is a leech, but not the small water-dwelling creature you will immediately visualise. So what's in a name? The names given to plants and animals can be misleading and have often been misapplied. In America, for example, a hemlock is a tree, whilst here in Britain it's a poisonous herb. So how the hell did that happen? Think about leeches. These creatures are pretty horrible here on Earth, and when spotting something of a similar appearance oozing along a stream bed on an alien world, it would be easy to give it the same name. Upon then discovering that its feeding habit is to take out lumps of flesh, and that it can grow to the size of a hippopotamus on land or to the size of a whale in the sea, you might then reconsider the choice of name, but probably too late. Another of my favourite subjects has been added to this mix: immortality. The idea for the life system of Spatterjay was conceived in a short story of the same name in my collection, The Engineer. And there it was fairly simplistic, skeletal. That story, along with another from the same collection that went under the name of Snails, formed the basis of what was to become The Skinner. In the first story, the discovery that a bite of a Spatterjay leech transmitted a form of viral immortality made the world a definite place to head for once the Zimmer frame was beckoning. However, those seekers after eternal life became less enthusiastic upon discovering a world not cosseted by the human polity, a world where the incredibly tough and ancient hoopers, the native humans, might inadvertently tear your arm off, and where the leeches would feed upon their hosts again and again, because to them, the people and animals infected by the virus were just a reusable food source. Is that implausible? Not really. Why kill the whole animal when you can regularly harvest its flesh? Here on Earth, under a rock or a leaf, lurking in the ground or in still water, you'll find creatures using similar strategies. Pick up a veterinary handbook on helminthology, the study of parasitic worms, if you want to read about some real horrors. There's a parasite that gets inside a snail, for example, and so adjusts a creature's physiology that it grows a thicker shell, thus protecting both parasite and snail. The downside being that the snail no longer has the resources to breed, whilst the parasite breeds inside it. Here then is a parasite that actually increases the survivability of its host. A bit like a Spatterjay leech, really. Another parasite's life cycle includes both sheep and ants. Inside the ant, it alters the function of that insect's brain. So it climbs to the top of the grass stalk and there clings with its pincers, waiting for a sheep to come along and eat it. There's always a downside. Immortality has its downsides. Do you want to live forever? Of course you do, but not if it hurts. So what would you reckon is the most valuable thing on a world where money is worth bugger all and life might be eternal? What does an immortal seek who knows that his form of immortality might someday turn him into a monster? It's death, of course. The leeches, reaching the size at which they can no longer support their weight, take to the sea to grow even larger. There the hoopers must hunt them for the treasure their bodies contain because, out of necessity, it is there that the oceanic leeches change in a very particular way. It's the mouth, you see. When it finally becomes so large that harvesting flesh is no longer an option, the leech has to eat its prey whole. And obviously there are dangers in swallowing something that has no particular hurry to die. Oceanic leeches begin to produce in themselves, in their bile, a poison that kills the immortality virus and thus their prey. From this bile, by centrifuge and crystallization, the hoopers refine a pure poison called sprine, which is worth more to them than gold and gems. Than gold and gems. All treasures are difficult to obtain. That's the nature of the beast. Sprine gives the hoopers the option to die. But the problem is with death is that you want it when you want it and not before. And sprine is an option hoopers always use too late. This is not so good on a world like Spatterjay, where people would often prefer to die than face the next few hours of life. The leeches are bad enough, of course, but then there are the rider prill, with their sickle legs, the glisters, the frog and hammer whelps, and did I neglect to mention the mercenaries and their psychotic leader, or the homicidal aliens and the war drones? And did I neglect to mention the worst of them all, the Skinner himself? Come pay a visit, but keep out of the water.